You are now entering a dangerous liberty zone where God-given natural rights are held sacred and exercised. This is your warning. Tyranny, fascism, and censorship will not be tolerated. Ideas will be exchanged freely. Rigorous debate and open discourse is encouraged. If you are weak and your beliefs are fragile, you should leave now. Prepare yourself. We are now live on the Dangerous Liberty Podcast. What is happening, folks? Hope everybody out there is having a great Thursday. I wanted to jump on here. This was not scheduled, obviously, but I am getting a ton of DMs on multiple platforms, as well as in the comment section of the channel and on the last video. And instead of trying to go through and, answer all of those, I figured I would just get on here. And we could talk a little bit. I think there's a real need for people. I think people just need to talk, right? And hopefully we can be some sort of outlet for that. I want to say hi to as many people as I can real quick over in the chat. First of all, we got Ann over here, a longtime follower of the show. She always takes care of us, and she always reminds me to say hit the like button, subscribe, all that stuff, because I almost never do. Hey, you know what? If you're not following me on X, I would definitely recommend you to follow me on X. I want to talk about a couple things about X. Number one, if you want to share stuff with me, that's actually the easiest way. You can post links, video, things like that. The other thing that I would tell everybody that I don't think everybody's doing right now is X is definitely, in my opinion, the best source of news out there. There's tons of very good citizen journalists out there reporting daily that you can trust, that have integrity. Not to say they're perfect and don't get some things wrong, but and obviously there's a bunch of there's a spectrum of people out there. But I think if you find some good quality people out there, you can figure out real quick who is full of crap, who does good journalist work. But what I will tell you is that the information that comes out in X is usually days ahead of anything that you guys are going to see on, any of the news channels, and it's much more accurate. Again, if you choose to follow the right people that are putting out good information. Again, I do want to say hi to people over in the comment section. We got DJ BD. I'll do like the first 10 or so. Crying in the Dark. Elias Ramirez, Cole May, Sadler NIH, James Fair, Greg Sun, Freebridge Metal Detecting. So I'm going to try to answer as many questions. We're going to talk about what's going on with this, and obviously we'll prioritize the super chats. We always appreciate that. I will try to take some chats over here that you're not paying for, but obviously we will prioritize the super chats. All right. So a couple of things. So hopefully, if you haven't watched my latest video, you go watch that. What I found is that just looking at my comment section again, there's just tons and tons of people like, hey, this can't be correct because of X, Y, and Z. And, I don't disagree that we still have some problems with what's going on and what we're being told and all those other things. But the reason people are jumping off board certain narratives and looking for other ones, sometimes it's just based on bad information. That's what I wanted to do today, was clear that up as much as possible, and hopefully that was productive. Let's see here. Saw one question I did want to hit. Crying in the Dark says, to put this to rest, could you go out, fire a 30-06 and show what it does to a watermelon or something similar? Well, the problem is, number one, the human body doesn't operate like a watermelon. The other problem with that is, folks, there's so many variables. We don't know the exact trajectory. We don't know the exact bullet. We don't with the information we have, it's impossible to recreate with any sort of accuracy what took place on that. So, that's one of the issues that I'm having with just going out and recreating this. Yes, I did show that. Now, yeah, Ann's referring to shooting pork butt, and again, that was the largest caliber, not the largest caliber, but the most powerful caliber was only 5.56. But what I wanted to do was show you guys the characteristics of an exit wound. Look, we can be wrong about a few things, and again, the body armor thing is keep going. I just got additional conflicting confirmation from somebody else saying that he did have body armor on. So I don't know what'll end up being that. And I know a lot of you guys over in the comments are saying, hey, Gary, why are you backtracking off this? Look, I'm going to backtrack. If the evidence points to me being wrong on a certain aspect of this, until we have verification, I at least need to update people on that and say, hey, look, right now we have quite a bit of information saying that X, Y, and Z is correct. And if it contradicts an earlier thing, I'm going to try to get out there and correct that as quickly as possible. That's all I can do. Let me see here. All right. Nikki, I have a picture that debunks your entry site of wound and why Charles' head moves the same direction. Send it to me on X. Oh, and by the way, folks, all right, we've got to stop sending me stuff. Where did I put my pen? It's over here. All right, we got to stop sending stuff to our business email. The new email address, if you want to send any information, is dlpodcast@paramountTactical.com. I'll put this dlpodcast@paramountTactical.com. So if you want to send me information to look at, I will be happy to do that, or you can send it to me on X. X is actually easier. I can go through the links real quick and things like that. Nikki, the problem that I have with this is you're about the 80th person that has told me this. Hopefully you're correct. I'll happily post whatever information I have. I have gotten about 1,000 emails, almost literally, hey, there is blood coming from the right side. And then I actually pull up those pictures, and what it is, it's his hairline again, the picture zoomed in, but it's his hairline. There's some chromatic aberration that's given it a red tint, but it is not blood coming from the right side of his head. There is video from the right side where he's moving this way, but that picture is from the front. So you only see like a black line as he turns his head, and you start to see the outline of his hair. That is not blood. So, I mean, I think there's that. Why is no one talking about the security detail, either Charlie Kirk's personal security or the school not having the roofs locked down, especially after Butler, PA? We've talked about his security detail at length on this. He had a personal security detail. He is not a president. He is not a diplomat. He is not. He has a very small, probably 4 to 6 man security detail. They are not going to be able to lock down roofs. They're not going to have, hundreds of people running around. That's not feasible. And I'm sure the school security, there were certain areas of the school roped off, but they just weren't prepared to handle anything like this. I'm sure things will change. The other thing that I clearly see that there is a need for is somebody, and maybe it's already done, but obviously it wasn't being used. But clearly there is a need for some sort of aerial security, a company to start, or current security companies that are using drone technology and obviously monitoring different areas of any sort of event like this. The problem is, especially for private security companies, folks, that's harder than you think. You have to get FAA approval. Flying drones today is not that easy as well. So it's illegal to fly over people. That's obviously a hurdle that you have to overcome. You can get some waivers for things like that, but the FAA is kind of a pain in the ass to work through on some of those issues. The boogeyman, number one, I see down in the comments of all the channels, or all the videos. I appreciate the support. Thank you. Love the content. Oh, I pulled it up, but I didn't put it on the screen. Love the content. I just want to say there are many variables involved in events like this that is impossible to comprehend. I'm sure you yourself have dealt with hard to explain mortalities with your time in service. Yeah. So just everybody's clear. And again, I'm not one to, I want to beat my drum or, whatever. I'm not a Navy SEAL, so I don't like to talk about myself, but it's a little joke to all my frog buddies. Not only was I in the military, and not only was I in special operations, when I got out, again, what I did was security work for a federal agency. And then I did on the training side for a really long time, but then I also did security work where I was traveling to embassies and consulates and things like that, amongst some other roles that and responsibilities. I actually developed security awareness, threat prevention programs for the federal government, teaching surveillance detection, making sure people understand an attack cycle, how that works, how pre-attack surveillance works. So these are areas. I'm not just a former sniper. I'm not just pulling this stuff out of my butt. I do have some extra expertise and experience in all of this stuff. And I'm not a YouTuber. I almost look at that as a pejorative. What I am, we run a business, and I happen to do some things on YouTube. And the reason I started the YouTube channel was nothing more than to educate people, promote the importance of freedom, liberty, the Second Amendment, all those things. What's going on, Lori? Lori's a big, longtime follower of the channel. Good day from Australia. Steve, I appreciate that. Hit that like button twice. If you want to hit the thumbs down button, make sure you guys hit that twice. That's a super dislike. Jim Tuffield, why not concentrate on your wonderful precision rifle company? This is drivel. Well, Jim, how about this? How about I do what I want? And, why even comment? If you're going to be disrespectful on my channel, I'm just going to ban you. I don't have time for it. Thanks for the giveaway yesterday and your consistency with the flow of information. You're welcome. Folks, that was a lot of fun. We gave thousands and thousands of dollars worth of stuff yesterday away to supporters of the channel. That was a lot of fun. That was a well-needed break and kind of a quick distraction from all of this. So, yeah. Margarita Diaz, being at that distance and the power of the weapon, it would have had an exit wound. I agree. I think there is a 99+% chance that we should have seen an exit wound. Now, one of the things that keeps coming up, and I agree with everybody, we do not have confirmation that it was indeed a 30-06. We do have those leaked pictures from the ATF. I do believe I have pretty good solid confirmation that those are legitimate pictures, but I don't think there's been anyone to come out and give an official statement on that weapon. It wouldn't surprise me at all. And would be a little bit more if there's not if he's not wearing body armor, it would make more sense for what we're seeing that we're not talking about a 30-06. There are some things, again, although unlikely, there are some things that could contribute to what we're seeing as far as the ballistics involved, and that is, some sort of frangible ammo. But even that, I mean, it takes some penetration typically for that frangible ammo to actually break apart, and I would still expect to see pieces. As much energy as we're talking about, we would still expect to see some things. We would still expect to see some sort of exit wound for sure. Man-made climate change. I'm not going to throw it up there, but it is funny. Man-made climate change is 100% BS. Talking is good. We are being led astray by both sides. Oh, we got another super chat. Leo, people in the chat saying Megyn Kelly confirmed with his team that he was wearing body armor. I did watch that. Apparently, at some point in the interview, and I was actually watching the interview, and I was doing it like 2x because it was like 2 hours long. I have heard reports, I haven't confirmed it, that apparently she even says that it skipped off of his plate and hit him in the neck. If somebody has, well, I know the interview. What I need is a timestamp. If you can send that to me on X in my DMs, I will even go ahead, and I have 100 new DM requests. I don't even know if it's, you know what, if you send it to me now on X and just mention me in it, hopefully it'll go right to the top of my notifications and I can pull it up very quickly. Yeah. What are we trying to decipher? What I think, well, the main thing I think most people are trying to decipher is exactly what happened, because I do think there are some peculiar things going on with this. I'll tell you what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to work through this personally, and I'm kind of using my platform as a little bit of, I don't know, talking through it myself, right? And looking through it and analyzing it and what's going on. And I think, you know, I do think that people have found what I have to say helpful, and that's part of what I'm trying to do. I also think it's really important. I think the most important thing that I can do right now is go out there and completely dismantle some of the nonsense that's being pulled, just being thrown around. I also don't think that we should ever trust the government. As I said in the last video, I do think that we need to, because here's the thing: the more of people like me and other people that are doing great work out there, and I'm by far not the most effective, and I'm by far not the only one out there doing these things. The more people we have, the less likely something like this is able to happen, for a couple different reasons. If it is the government or some other entity or some other government behind this, number one, we need to be able to find that out for ourselves, and in some way, and trust me, I'm not so disillusioned that I think that, because everybody's crying out that we're going to get, people to stand trial. Apparently that doesn't happen with politicians or heads of agencies or hardly anyone anymore, right? But I do think it is a deterrent from things like this even possibly taking place, or at least it makes it a lot harder for them, all those things. So I think it's important. And look, when it comes to, we no longer have any sort of, we don't have any trusted news sources anymore. And I think it's really important that we get more people involved in this. And that is, citizen journalism, I think, is what we need going forward. We can't have 3 or 4 different networks that are controlling the narrative on everything. They've lost all credibility and they're never going to get it back. And so I think it's really important that citizens, which is really how it should be, not these big corporations telling us what they find out and doing good investigative journalism, and not just trying to find their perspective and omitting other facts, because I think that's the biggest problem that we see in journalism today. Frank Turk explains in his video that he was in the car with Charlie the entire drive to the hospital. He would know if he was wearing body armor. Look, there's plenty of people out there that would know, that can confirm whether or not he had body armor. That's not a question. We just haven't heard them speak to that specifically. Your expertise is very useful. Thank you so much. Well, thank you. Looks like a squib the way the shirt wound, no exit wound, and the way the blood flows. Are we being duped? No, we're not being duped. Look, this idea, I almost started hitting on it in the last video, this idea that exploding microphones, I did talk about, I think the idea that a camera behind him being the weapon is ridiculous. I think all of that stuff is ridiculous. He was clearly shot. I mean, I don't know what else to tell anybody out there. Like, he was clearly shot. To me, the more I've analyzed all the footage, and from what I have now, he was, like, the direction of where he was shot, I think, is pretty clear. No, nothing I did today would confirm that, I don't like to say his name, but the guy that the alleged shooter, like, we don't have the information to confirm that he did it 100%. I do think all the evidence points to that at this point, but I'm not willing to rule out anything. But I do think, like, we can kind of narrow down the direction from which it came. And I think that, some of these other perspectives that people are saying indicates, a shot from the right, things like that. I think it's a matter of, hey, that video from its perspective looks weird. Like, we don't even know exactly in relation to where those videos were taken. The other thing that we definitely know is that there's better footage out there, for sure. There's a lot more footage out there. Unfortunately, not everybody that is at that event, and just about everybody took some footage or video, and there was a lot of other people recording during that event. We haven't seen that footage. There are professional videographers and camera crews and things like that, I don't doubt, were recording the event, and that footage exists. Very good, high definition footage, but we still don't have that information yet. Chris, good evening. Since I owed you a penny, you bet. I think it's awesome you cutting through the nonsense. Thank you. Shannon Sarah, thank you for your insight on this. I have a new appreciation for complexity and ballistics. Is there anything outside of deflection that you can explain the upper trajectory? We know he was hit in the neck internally. I think that there are other explanations. There are possibilities, but I think the probability of them is so low that it just, it kind of strains credulity. I don't know. Let me get back to you on that. I do think if he didn't have a vest, if he did get hit directly in the neck, I don't know. I still don't have a good explanation as to why we don't have an exit wound. Colt 45, thank you very much. Air Force vet, thank you for your service. I'm 68 year old, and I have hunted since I was 10. If that was an exit wound in his neck, there should be blood splatter all over his shirt. There was none. I agree with that. That is a point that I made in the last video. We would see a protrusion of biological material and lots of blood, especially if it tore through his carotid artery. Yeah, we would see a lot of blood, without a doubt. And we don't see that. We see it after a few seconds. And again, that's another characteristic of a entry wound, where even though we're going through a lot of different vessels, again, there is a vacuum effect that takes place, right? We have we have a huge temporary cavity that takes place. It kind of sucks everything in, and then it closes it on itself, and then it settles down, and then tissue that does want to close up. So it is very common for an entry wound to take a few seconds to start bleeding. We don't see that with an exit wound. It may take a couple of seconds after that process takes place, but we still see a expulsion of a lot of material, and we don't see that in that. So, to me, in my opinion, there's zero chance that that's an exit wound. Thank you, Cap. Mike Ross. To me, it's obvious he was hit on the upper left chest just by his body movement. The deflection or shatter impact in the neck is visible because of the energy transfer from the front to back in his neck and head. I agree. That's definitely what it looks like to me. It looks like he was initially hit in the chest, and bullets do some weird things. So if a bullet was shot at him at a downward angle, wouldn't the bullet ricochet at a downward angle? No. Number one, as I talked about, we're talking about a 10-degree angle. Everybody thinks, if you haven't watched my last video, go check it out. I've calculated it. It's definitely less. It's like 9.2 degrees. So the downward angle that everybody talks about is not that much. A bullet, regardless of what, to some degree, at what angle it hits a surface, it is going to deflect at the angle of that surface. So we could even have, again, if this phone, all right, if this phone was, and we shot around at it like this, and this phone was angled like this, for instance, body armor that is contoured, that upper chest is almost always going to be contoured, and just naturally the contour of your chest and the fact that he's sitting back, we have a natural angle that's taking place here, right? It is not straight. It is angled just like this. So no, that is not necessarily true. And the angle that everybody's imagining isn't correct to begin with. The angle is not that severe. In the video from Zeb on the outside of Overton, he believes the shot entered below Charlie's right ear next to the left neck, likely an 8.6 supersonic round. I've addressed Zeb's video in detail. There's that, again, I like Zeb. We need to have him on. I commented on one of his things. I just found that he's on X. I actually looked for him on X the other day. I couldn't find him because I wanted to DM him directly. So, we'll definitely have him on. He seems smart, seems intelligent. We just disagree on some things. Thoughts on where the gun was when it jumped from the roof. Also, the media sucks. Thank you. Yeah, so we actually had Gray Hughes investigates. He does a pretty good job kind of analyzing that footage, and it was compelling to me. I agreed with everybody out there that was really hard to see any sort of rifle. He's definitely carrying something that looks linear, but it's hard to see the full length of it. And what he pointed out, as distorted as that video is, it shows there's many times where his legs look like just like a line. And it's just because of really poor video. And his point, and I think it's a valid one, and again, please go watch that whole analysis because he does a good job breaking it down. You can disagree with him at the end of it or not, but he provides that information. And he basically makes the good point that it's hard to see the barrel. It's so thin. We're so far away. That is so pixelated. And then he does point out a couple different frames where it does look like you can see the entire thing. So, you're welcome to figure out if you agree with that. Have you seen the video by Matt Kester showing how the shooter could have carried rifle? I didn't, but I will tell you that Gray Hughes broke that down, and I think it's completely plausible. He was basically carrying it underneath his backpack, so it was going down the back of his leg. And Gray even pointed out in some of that footage that you see him in the neighborhoods, where you can see it looks like he's limping on one side because that back of the barrel is hitting the back of his leg. Did you see the video Heavy Duty Country put out with the man in the suit carrying a bag? I haven't seen that video. I have seen pictures of the man. Excuse me. I haven't seen that video, but I've seen pictures of the man in the suit carrying the bag. He is suspicious. He looks weird. No doubt about that. I may or may not check that video out. I probably will check the video out. My mouse keeps freezing up. I'm not sure why. Foxtrot Washington, thank you very much. Oops, sorry. Mike Ross, Kester says it was broken down. Mausers only need a screwdriver to be put back together, which is why one was left at the scene. It takes less than a minute to break down or assemble. I agree. He could have had just the barreled action. So you can remove the stock. He could have had that in his backpack, but you're still left with that's probably a 26-inch plus barrel. And then action is typically 6 to 7 inches long. So, you're talking about a 30-something inch, and it could be a shorter barrel. I'm not sure exactly what the length of the barrel is, but I didn't see a barrel length, but looking at the Mauser, the shortest version of that model, I believe, was 43 inches. So all of that jives, and I think that is very plausible, and it's the only reason. And again, Gray Hughes breaks that down. He shows the exact place that I believe somebody saw him, but there's like a little retaining wall that he jumped over, and he was down there, most likely assembled it. It doesn't take much. Should just be 2 action screws, so it wouldn't take long to assemble that. Now, I know people have said that he broke it down when he was exfilling. I don't think that he broke it down. I think he had the entire thing. What about people saying that the scope wasn't mounted properly? How are you going to get the first shot with a scope not mounted properly? All right. We teach long range for a living. We have students show up with guns that just because it's not mounted properly doesn't mean that it's not mounted in a way that will work. And I can tell you, we've had lots and lots of students show up with guns assembled much more strangely than what I saw in that footage, in that picture. And I'll ask them, like, have you been shooting it like this? I'm like, yeah. So I'm not super surprised that that doesn't take away from its ability to function. It just means you're more likely to get scope bite. And he's probably not mounting that rifle correctly. If you haven't been taught how to mount a rifle correctly, 98% of shooters don't. So that doesn't necessarily, that's not a big consideration for me. Thank you for everything that you do. Your claims are all authentic and genuine. Need more people like you in this world. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. Thanks, Reflex RL. There had to be an exit wound to sever Charlie's necklace, lifted his shirt as well. The necklace can be seen flying in the air in 2 video angles. I disagree with that. I disagree with the fact that it has to be severed to have broken it. There is footage. I've shown it in other videos, and well, I'll get to that in a second. But I want to talk about what we're seeing happen with the footage. We saw the same thing happening with the Butler situation as well. I don't think it actually has to be severed or have an exit wound to actually break that. I think there's actually a better case that there's not an exit wound, so that's what we see taking place. And here's what I mean by that. Folks, we can see that his neck definitely expands. And folks, I'm telling you right now, you need to understand that what we're dealing with when it comes to firearms is we're talking about a massive, violent acceleration of material and anything attached to that in less than milliseconds, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of a second, right? Like, I mean, we're talking about things taking place violently and rapidly that I don't think most of us can get our head around. Now, what I think is more likely than it, because here's the thing, if it had just went through and broke the chain that clearly had a cross on it, there is an outline of that, I think the weight of the cross would have just fallen. Just like if I hung a chain up on anything and I shot that chain, we would see almost no movement of the chain. What we would see is it just fall, right? It would just, the bullet would go right through there. But I think what we saw was a very rapid swelling and expansion of the neck, which would yank that up. I do think at this point, that weird anomaly that we see with the shirt is probably the cross actually going up. And I think just that alone broke that chain and ultimately accelerated that thing back. It's a little bit, that is definitely speculative to begin with, but the idea that it had to break and, you know, then get flown backwards, I think that is not only speculative, I think it's less likely, to be honest with you. But you guys tell me what you think. They're still talking about the camera guy removing what looked like the SD card after the incident stood on Charlie's chair like it was nothing. Opinion. Yeah, and I talked about this last night. All right, so I spent a lot of time looking at those guys after it all, you know, as they pulled Charlie out and things start to calm down. We see those guys in that footage come in there and look, I think that's Charlie's camera crew. I believe actually a couple of those guys, or at least one of them, was on that interview. I didn't confirm that, but he looked familiar. He looked like the same guy that was back there messing with this stuff. He was a videographer. So their friend was killed. They're kind of left there alone. And they looked to me like they were like lost puppies, not knowing what to do. They kind of stood around for a while, like no police were coming, or at least no police came. I think they didn't know what to do. They were making phone calls. They were probably in shock. I'm not saying that's a great explanation. I'm just saying, and I'm not saying that that isn't suspicious. I mean, what would your family do if you were sitting there, or friends do if again, this type of event, and that's their job, to take care of that footage. They wanted to preserve that footage. I would definitely do that. The last thing I would want is for that footage to be taken from the FBI and not have access to it, right? And also understand that that is the question cam. We see this in all their videos. At Turning Point's videos, they have a camera set up that is trained on the speaker. I don't think that you're going to see anything as far as like the back of Charlie. That's not a wide angle camera. That is a telephoto lens that's actually trained in on the speaker, which is going to be, I don't know, I think 30, 40 feet away from Charlie at that point. So Hopefully we get that footage either way. We can confirm or deny that, but just understand, I don't think it's going to show much from that perspective. There's other footage that I'm definitely much more interested in, but that is still out there that we may or may not see. Hi, Gary. Just discovered you had a channel. We used to work together when you were B31. I was the guy next door to your arms room fixing stuff for you. Cool content. I appreciate your breakdowns. Thanks, man. Well, it's I'm glad you found me. An autopsy report would help, and we do not have the bullet that hit Charlie, as far as I know. We only have engraved unspent rounds to the rifle. But where could the bullet have gone? I don't think it went anywhere. I think that bullet's still in his body. There's no evidence, and I think the evidence would be very clear if we had an exit wound. There's so much speculation over analyzation, theories, finger pointing. It's hard to know what is fact and what is fiction. So thanks for being more fact-based rather than feeling opinion-based. You're welcome. I don't know that I'm not. Well, here's what I'll tell you. I woke up this morning, and what kind of initiated this video. I woke up this morning and I started going through some social media feeds, and I started seeing a lot of content just pushing nonsense. And I immediately threw on some clothes, came down here, hit record on the camera, and I spent like 2 hours recording. And then I pulled that footage. Obviously a lot of mess ups, and trust me, I mess up a lot. It's really hard to talk to a camera. Even this, it's like there's no interaction. It's tough. Anyways, so I went back there, started editing that video, and I was just all over the place. I was clearly emotional, and I was like, no, we got to redo this video and cut it down. So that what you guys saw was take 2, and it was because I was emotional. I was mad, angry. Man, during that whole Butler thing, I had no idea, dipping my toe in this arena, at what an industry there is of just people exploiting people left and right, coming up with the dumbest, most outlandish theories, and those videos attract a lot of people. And I didn't realize that. And then I definitely called some people out, not even called them out directly, but I called people out and said, hey, look, this is not true. And by the way, I do think this is intentional deception, because only an idiot, that if you're smart enough to sit down, record, and do all the other stuff, I think it was intentional deception on their part. And of course, immediately I get attacked. People claiming that, I'm some sort of government agent. No, I use fact, logic, and evidence. I dismantled this nonsense. And guess what? Once they realized, because later on, more evidence came out, it was proven that was just utter nonsense. They quietly moved from that to another just as idiotic theory. And we see this time and time again. And it's not just one. There's an entire industry that regularly capitalizes on tragedy, comes up with the dumbest theories to explain it, and people gravitate toward it. It's unfortunate. I'm disappointed in my fellow Americans in that regard. A fragmenting varmint round might not pass through. Low penetration, massive energy dump. Tons of videos uploaded to my page from Tacticam Spotter. I agree. I agree that a frangible round, like we would see with a varmint round, it is possible. But what we're not talking about is, I haven't seen any frangible rounds. I haven't seen anything like that shot with a 30-06. Usually when we're shooting varmints, we're shooting with lower caliber rifles. And then the other thing that we have in this particular instance, which makes me skeptical of the ability of a round to dump that much energy that quick, is that we are actually hitting a human neck, which again, it's not very dense. Even if it hits bone, I would expect to see some sort of, I think it's most likely that we would expect to see some sort of exit wound. I could be wrong. With larger caliber round hitting the human neck, even with frange, I would expect to see that. Faith Harbuck, thank you. Crystal Weir, it likely couldn't have been the necklace, because Frank Turek told the story of the ride to the hospital. They found it in the SUV. I'll send you video. All right, that makes it weirder too. I know there's been people out there, including Zeb. He said it was in-ear monitors. I will tell you that it does look like that. But there's lots of footage that prior to any sort of impact, there's nothing that I can see that where he's wearing any in-ear monitors. And there's enough footage out there where I think you would be able to see that, but it's okay if it is. Also, there's a lot of close-up footage of Charlie at these types of events that is obviously even more clear. It's their footage of their facing the camera that faces him. And I've never seen him wear in-ear monitors in those instances. When he's in the studio, he's wearing in-ear monitors, and they are hard to see, but we never see them. Megyn Kelly video today is at 43 minutes, and it's not a definitive admission. Look, and I don't know where Megyn Kelly got that from. I don't know. Even if she says it, it doesn't mean it's true. So we'll leave that there. A bullet is aggressive entry of mass with pressure. Mass pressure in, mass pressure out. If it was a clean impact to the neck would have popped. It was pressure backward, then upward. I think the BF set him up. 1 hour, 13:30. I'll check that out. If I was super good at multitasking here, actually, I'll try. I'm going to pull up Megyn Kelly, and we'll see if we can't find that and maybe play that and see exactly what she said. I believe this is her host Charlie Kirk show. I'll actually share my screen with you guys. And share screen. And we'll see what she says on this. Now I got to grab some headphones. Hold on. 1:13:30. I wasn't planning on listening to media here. All right. Let's jump on here and see if we can hear what everyone's talking about.
Joins me next.
1:13:30. This doesn't even go to 1:30.
All of us.
Somebody else said it was like at the 45 mark. Uh, 43 minutes. Let's see if we see it there. Problem is there's multiple versions of this, obviously. Let's go to 42:40.
And then on top of that, he was doing 5 speeches a week.
He was?
We were traveling, like we were supposed to be in Colorado State today. We are supposed to be in Nashville tomorrow. He would just bank these speeches and content. We didn't even post all of them. We have so many speeches that haven't even been posted yet.
Who is he speaking to?
Groups. On Friday, he was supposed to be speaking at a church event. Today, he was supposed to be speaking to students at Colorado State. And
wow.
When we were in H.
Clearly, that's not it either. We'll find it at some point, and we'll play it and see what she has to say. Like I said, no matter what she says, I'm not saying that it's definitive. Do you think it was an AP round? Armor piercing round, the way that it deflected and didn't spall. I don't know that. We don't know if it did spall. Again, just like a shotgun, depending on how close it was to the neck, it could potentially be that's all we're seeing. Obviously, when the round hits something, it takes a minute. When we're shooting steel targets, right? Most of those steel targets are angled down like this. So you're shooting them. It's actually deflecting down and immediately spalling, breaking apart. And we see all kinds of fragments at the bottom. But if we actually hit a piece of steel, right, it's still monolithic and it starts to break apart. The further it gets from the point of impact, the more it spreads. We could potentially see, just because of the short distance between here and here, that it did break apart, but the entire amount of spalling, all of those pieces made that larger hole. That's a possibility without a doubt. But again, the first fact that we got to establish is, did he or did he not have body armor Mr. FPV Junkie, did you see the crazy theory about a shooter being under the stage? Just gunshots going up through the neck. I don't have time for those. Like, I'm kind of sick of these dumb theories. It really does, folks. It undermines everything being done here. And I saw this with the J-13 there in Butler, Pennsylvania. Like, I think there was some really good journalism being done. And here's the thing is, like, even if the government, and I definitely saw this to be a fact in Butler, even if the government is missing stuff and they're on the up and up, they're investigating with integrity, they can still miss things and miss evidence. And we have millions of eyes out there and some people that are doing some really good analysis of what's going on, then can make a claim like, hey, look, you missed X, Y, and Z. The problem is when you're getting all of these phone calls, emails of all this, like, hey, have you checked out the camera gun? Have you checked out the iPhone gun? And when the FBI is getting these calls, that the stuff is so easily disproven, now they don't take any of it seriously. And on top of that, the fact-based, or the things that need to be highlighted and brought to the public's attention, are now completely undermined and just thrown in the junk drawer with all the other nonsense. And that's the problem with this. People are just trying to make it a left or right thing. Can't we look at this like a disturbed person and just work on the facts? Also, the whole thing is very sus. No, we can't. And here's why. Because that won't fix it. I know the left would love that right now. I know the left would absolutely love us to do that. Like, oh no, hey, it's just disturbed. No. The left is absolutely responsible for this attack. They are. They have been creating the conditions, and they have been painting conservatives, Donald Trump, Charlie Kirk, and so many other people as Hitler, as an existential threat. And that is the problem. So yeah, we can take a look at all this other stuff, but I haven't seen one person on the left come back and apologize for calling. As a matter of fact, they're doubling down. They're doubling down on Charlie Kirk. They're saying, hey, you know what? Yeah, they'll say, you know what? No one should die, but you know, he was still a racist. He was still a bigot. He was still, and they're taking all his everything that he's ever said out of context, turning it around, and it's disgusting. So no, we can't just say, hey, this was a disturbed person. What this was a product of the left. We have millions of people out there that are genuinely convinced that just about every conservative, every Republican is racist, is a bigot, is an existential threat to this country and to democracy and freedom of speech and to women's rights and all of this other nonsense. They have been indoctrinated in believing that, and this is a product of the left. So no, we can't just kumbaya and move on. Sorry. Not until they apologize, not till they change their behavior, because they're still doing it, and there's other people being radicalized by the rhetoric of the left right at this very moment. There are 30-06 Sabbath rounds, much lower power, but still massive amount of energy. All right. I mean, Frank Turek also said they had drones. No, he didn't. All right. What they were doing as they were going in is they were looking at some drone footage and things like that. I do not think that, well, I haven't seen any evidence that they had drones while it was going on. And even if they did, I don't think those drones were for security purposes. Those drones were for production value. So they wouldn't be, you know, in a loiter pattern where they're actually looking at, you know, the rooftops and things like that. And why would they? Like, it's easy to, you know, this hindsight's 2020. It's easy to come up with all this stuff after the fact, and I get it. Wrong video. Louvre stream. Okay. I think he was wearing a plate, and the shirt moving was air being pushed out from between his body and the plate when the plate was impacted. I will say that there's a lot of footage that sure looks like that. And again, I've said this before. Look, folks, I know when people talk about body armor, they're like, well, I got it over there somewhere. Look, I'm not talking about these big, thick plates. like this is the industry that I'm in, and you go to SHOT Show or you look at some of the newest, latest, greatest technology when it comes to body armor, not the crap that you can buy off of not the crap that you can buy off most of the internet. A lot of this higher end body armor you have to have a direct connection with. They make extremely effective ballistic protection that is extremely thin, extremely form fitting, that is made to be low profile. So I'm not talking about even the steel plates I was just showing. I was just showing that, hey, you can get thinner plates, but there are some extremely high tech body armor out there that is much lower profile. I still do concede that there are moments where I do think that if when we see the outline of Charlie's nipple, if he had body armor at that time, I think we would still see some sort of indication on it. But again, those particular pictures, I don't know if had anything changed. I don't think that, he got off the stage or went through some on real quick or anything like that at this point. But I don't know. 30 cal Frangibles are available with Hornady, 110 VMAX, 125. I get it. Yeah, I know it's available. It's been available from World War II. There's some old, I just, and again, the other thing too is he could have planned this out, and he could have found what he thought was the most, the shooter may be much more knowledgeable when it comes to firearms and ballistics than we're giving him credit for. There's clearly lots of pictures out there. I mean, he may reload. Like, we don't know what level of preparation that he took prior to this. We don't. He may have some knowledge, and he may have, and all this stuff is open source. If he looked up, hey, what's the most? He could have looked. I want to be careful about YouTube censorship, right? So he could have definitely looked up and found information that pointed him to certain ammo options like this, specifically for the reasons that we're talking about. That is a very real thing. And, most of us are assuming that this was not a knowledgeable guy. And there are pictures of him shooting at a very young age. His family was clearly into guns. He may be much more knowledgeable than we're all giving him credit for. On Nate's show today, he showed that 30-06 would completely defeat his head. Again, I go back to, I have to look at Nate's show, and I would like to pick his brain about it, and I would like to challenge him a little bit on it too, because if we were talking about a lighter grain 30-06 round, even with a 30-06. And again, I mean, we don't know if he loaded these rounds. Like, we don't know. Like, once you introduce that into the equation where he's doing hand loads, like, all bets are off, because he could be loading these things with less powder, all those things. And all of that is more plausible and more likely than, a full powered 30-06 round hitting him directly and not seeing an exit wound. So there has to be an explanation for it. Either it's not a 30-06, and again, it might not be, or it's a 30-06, and there's some sort of very unique explanation that we require to explain what we're seeing from a terminal ballistic standpoint. 957 on a new heavy duty. I did not spend money if not worth your time. Black latex glove on the right hand and a tactical sling hanging from his BP. All right, I'll definitely take a look at that. I did see the picture that you're talking about. I don't know that I spend a lot of time on it. I probably should. I was working on a lot of other things, and I got a lot of stuff coming in. I'm trying to sort through emails. I'm trying to respond. I also got it. Not that I really care, but I did get a couple of nasty grams in the email that I saw, where it's like, people pissed off that I didn't respond to their email. Folks, number one, there's many of those emails that I did go in there and I did say thank you, but then after, I don't know, literally a couple thousand of them, I just started like, is this something I've seen before? Nope, delete. All right, I got to sort through these, and I don't mean to be rude, I promise you. When the noise overtakes the signal, You are a detriment to the investigation. Also, this is a problem because the leftist messaging is obvious, regardless if they say so. This was their goal. I agree. I agree. I apologize. Didn't mean an actual question or theory. Meant it more as how crazy people are getting. Thank you for everything you're doing. I hear you, man. I'm not, again, I get, I mean, the reason that I'm doing this is because I'm emotional about it. You know, I am. I'm pissed off. I'm worried about our country. So, like, if I get a little bit heated towards you, or if I get a little bit heated in a comment, it's not towards you guys. It's just me blowing off some steam. So thank you. And don't take it personal. MSN more in an uproar over Jimmy Kimmel. I know. Yeah, and you know what? Who cares? It's, you know. Episode 1152 of Charlie Kirk's show is the stream they talked about the armor, and about 42 minutes in, he had an increase in threats and started wearing a vest. I did hear that part. So that part I confirmed that he was wearing a vest. I didn't hear, somebody basically sent me a quote, and it could be wrong because people don't hear what they think they hear a lot of times. So I did hear that she apparently specifically said that the round struck the body armor and deflected into him in either directly or some indirect way that she said that. So that's more what I was talking about. She definitely talks about body armor, and I did hear that part. But that's not a confirmation that he was wearing body armor that day. Why are we worried about if Charlie was wearing armor? It would not have changed the outcome, right? Just the timing for death. It is like we're just looking for another thing to blame. No, no. I think the point of figuring out whether or not he had body armor on is to confirm or deny some additional suspicious or strange things. That's suspicious, not right. Strange things. Because when we start seeing these weird anomalies, the faster that we can explain them with either something that's confirmed or at least a reasonable explanation, we can kind of like move on to something else, right? So that's the reason for it. I agree. Like if he wasn't wearing body armor and he was hit where he's hit, without a doubt, he would be dead. It wouldn't have changed anything. But like I think people are needing explanations about some things, and I think it's a valid pursuit on that on the body armor question. Yeah, I talked about that already. Why should we believe he wasn't wearing body armor when they're clearly lying about so many other things? Your hypothesis is the only thing that makes sense to me. He didn't break down that rifle. I agree that he didn't break down the rifle. I agree that he at least didn't break down the rifle when he was leaving. I don't know how the rifle arrived. It is very plausible that he had a barreled action separated from the stock itself, and when he got there, so it'd be easier to conceal, and then when he got there, he assembled it. I think that is plausible. Nothing crazy about it. I definitely believe that a vest, him wearing a vest, is the most plausible explanation, and it explains everything away. It kind of goes back to me talking about it as the unifying theory. But I also realize that given the information that we have, that other things could be at play here that we're not aware of, and we could have seen what we saw without it necessarily involving body armor. And again, it makes it more weird if we don't have body armor, because to me, like, it's a little bit more open and shut if body armor was at play. Check your email. I sent a video and pics that show it. Okay. You and 50,000 other people, but I will check my email. I don't know. I've lost track of what it is that you're referencing. Calling Charlie Kirk, Trump, etc., Hitler, a fascist gives legitimacy to violence against them. Anyone with 20/20 hindsight would justify the assassination of Hitler. That is exactly right. This is not by accident. I think it's very strategic. All of those things. Thoughts on the shot? Do you believe he went to the roof prior with a rangefinder? What are the odds to make that in the first shot? It's 140 yards. Anybody can make that shot. It is not hard. It's not far. Look, and the other thing too is we're watching all of this stuff in video that really does distort the actual distance. 140 yards. Again, you guys go look at a football field. We're talking about the length of a football field and just a little bit more. It's not far. Like, I could take I have I can go out on my back porch. I have a range in my backyard. It's a little home-built range, right? There's steel out there at 100 yards. I regularly go out there, and many, many times I've gotten 10 out of 10 shots with a pistol. With a pistol, 10 out of 10 on a full-size plate. Actually, I've done it even on the reduced plates that I have out there. 10 out of 10 shots at 100 yards. With a rifle, like if you're missing at 140 yards with a rifle just freestanding with a non-magnified optic, you need to work on your fundamentals. It's not that difficult. 140 yards is nothing. And this goes back to the information gaps, people making assumptions based on, hey, that shot seems so far. It's not far. It's easy. I would get any of you, I would literally need, unless you have some sort of handicap that I'm not considering right now. If you are a normal physical, well, you don't have any physical defects, right? I could give you a 10-minute class in the fundamentals of marksmanship, lay you down the prone, and you would get headshots. Most of you would be able to get headshots at 140 yards. Assuming he had armor and deflector, could the wound that we see be both entry and exit? No. Can't be both entry and exit. Like gun, bullets do weird thing. They can go in the body. Usually smaller caliber bullets can go in the body and deflect trajectories. But a 30-06 round or any caliber, any decent caliber rifle, even 5.56, is not going to go inside a body, hit a bone, and then bounce back out. Like that's not a thing that it does. Have you investigated hoax theory? Infinite Plane Society channel has some interesting analysis. I think that there's a lot of channels out there that can get you to believe anything. The idea that this is a hoax, I'm trying to be very respectful to you, zombie robot, I think is stupid. It's disrespectful. I think Charlie Kirk is dead, and I think any sort of insinuation that he's still alive or this whole thing's a hoax is quite disgusting. And I understand, there's a lot of people. I don't know. I think there's too many people have just seen too many movies and things like that, and they've just like I said in the video. The problem that we're seeing is people are allowing their imaginations, just like there's no self-discipline of thought, and they're going to believe anything that in some of these videos. Like you can present a video in just about any way, and there's people that are really, really good at it. You can take real events, present it in some way, and do a lot of leading, like, all right, you guys watch what's going to happen here. All right. And then they show you something that would in any other circumstance would be completely innocuous and get you to believe that there's something crazy going on there. Yeah. Marcus J. out on YouTube determined that the flash in the window was actually the reflection of the shooter's muzzle flash. Okay. Maybe. The problem that I have with that is that you can almost never see muzzle flash during the day. It's just not bright enough. I'm not saying that it's completely possible, but impossible. But that deflection angle, I'd also like to see if that even makes sense. I don't think it would. We really have to look at the angles of that. But I'm very skeptical of the idea that a window 140 yards away or a piece of glass 140 yards away would reflect a muzzle flash from that distance. In bright daylight, you almost never see a muzzle flash. If you have a short barrel gun, there are exceptions to that. I'll give you that, but typically not. And definitely, I think it's suspicious at that distance, or unlikely. Let's say it that way. All right, see, this is good information. 11 baby mamas. Somebody verify this. I will try to verify this after it's done. I'm going to write down his name, Andrew Piscato. Andrew Piscato. All right. So the suspicious guy with a glove has spoken on Twitter. He has a prosthetic arm. His name is Andrew Piscato. What about rifle pick? Not in towel, and it's in a rifle box. I mean, I don't know. I don't find that very suspicious at all. Again, they're processing the crime scene. We also see that it's at night. So clearly a lot of time has passed. They were probably processing that crime scene for multiple hours, looking for evidence, things like that. They pull out a box that they're going to put this in for evidence. I don't find anything suspicious about that. I mean, Gary Zakami, FBI shill. Thanks, Jeff. Jeff's a personal friend of mine, so he likes to talk smack. $1.99. I shouldn't even freaking pulled your comment up. Bob Kitchen sure does sound crazy, but did you watch the video from Solomon Drin? Seems legit, man, albeit far-fetched. Please give it a look. Ot6 would have done more damage, in my opinion. The gun is made by Taurus Derringer Format 380. Okay, I will try to check that out. There's a little bit of me that is a little bit resistant to just filling my head too much with nonsense. I don't know. I'll check it out. Look, here's what I will tell you. I think that any theory that involves a gun being fired at close proximity, I think is extremely unlikely. Here we have thousands of cameras. We have thousands of people. And the idea that somebody's going to pull out a gun, even at close proximity, be able to get a shot off, us not hear it, not see some sort of muzzle flash or not necessarily a muzzle flash, but actually see some recoil and people around them not notice it, like that. Again, I mean, like, it's almost ridiculous in the proposition to begin with. Like, there's tons of people around. Like, how would that not be seen? New to the channel, one thing I don't understand is once it hit the plate armor, why didn't the bullet splinter and cause several wounds in the neck? I already covered that. If it did spall, if it broke apart, because how close it is, it could break apart. Again, it, like, a bullet doesn't just shatter and then move. It is shattering as it moves. If we had enough high-speed camera, we could actually see it as it's moving further and further away, break apart. Even if, I talk about this all the time with like a shotgun. Even we take a shotgun with birdshot and shoot it at a wall 3 or 4 feet away, it just makes a singular hole. You got to get enough time for it to expand to where we actually have those pieces that are already moving in the same direction. They want to continue to moving in the same direction. Eventually they're going to, start breaking apart and dispersion is going to take place, but it takes time and it takes a little bit of distance. Everything is weird and feels rushed. The story and gun and guy seems weird. It's like Charlie wasn't supposed to die and then scrambling to find a guy. All right. I'm going to avoid that. Would a tumbling round strike armor make sense? Would a tumbling round strike? Could. The problem that I have with the tumbling round thing is typically if a barrel shot out, so, basically what stabilizes the round, folks, is the rifling. All right. So the rifling provides gyroscopic stabilization. It's spinning this thing at hundreds of thousands of RPMs. And typically what we see is either unstabilized, meaning it's not spinning enough. We have a rifle that's shot out, so it's not spinning enough. So it becomes unstabilized or potentially not even spinning at all. So it becomes unstabilized, but usually we're going to see that, like, I would almost find it unlikely that it would hit its target at 140 yards. Yeah. Is it possible it was a ground strike and ricochet? I don't see how that's possible. I have a problem with the ricochet thing altogether. Like, for this person to be aiming for Charlie and then, does this trick shot off of any surface, the odds of it are so minuscule. But I mean, anything's possible. It's possible, but not likely. It's BS to me that he's still alive. I wish he were still with us. But what is all the crap about the secret society and the numbers 33? Like, it's people and an unlimited hangout that can't refrain from making up nonsense. That's what that is. Have you heard that Candace Owens has put out on it? Have you heard what Candace Owens has put out on it? Where do you currently stand about him not being shot from supposed location? I don't know if you already talked about it. I think it's very unlikely that he wasn't shot. Like all the evidence that I laid out in the last video that I just posted, I don't know, a couple hours ago. I think it's very clear to me that while none of that information confirms that it was the shooter, it's at least the only evidence that indicates it came from in that a very narrow angular window of direction, right? So it may have come from somewhere else, but I think it at least came in from that direction. So that's what I think about that. Look, I've just running through Twitter. I was literally shooting video twice and then editing all that stuff all day. I took a couple of breaks. I looked at some different feeds. I know that she said something. I don't know what it is, so I don't want to comment on it. There's strong evidence that the bullet path was up 40 degrees, question mark, through the front neck and stopped at the skull. We can see the massive energy wave through the upper neck, cheek, head, and the decorticate posturing. That's what I said in my initial video on all this. We have, it basically deflected off an armor plate, most likely the edge, and then it went up. I agree, like it points in that direction, but if we don't have body armor, then that becomes a real problem. Let's go off topic. Custom guns. As you open that side of your house, would you be open to customers coming on site, build, assemble their guns alongside you as part of the? So I don't want to talk about any of that side of the business because YouTube will give us a flag or whatever else. We have a website. You can go to that website. I don't want to give that website out, but it's probably like .com after the name of the channel. On that, you can shoot us an email and we'll talk about it because that is a big no on YouTube. There are paid actors around the shooter. Like, I'm trying to refrain from extremely coarse language. Chest hit, fragment coming out, shirt at back, shirt jumps, rear front, other fragments into head and one on the side of the neck, left side video, slow it down. I've seen the video. I don't think, and I've heard this theory. I don't think any of that. I don't think what I see supports that right now, JB. Could end up being right. I could end up being completely wrong. I think his partner has more to do with this too. It's still early and a lot of questions need to be answered. I will watching you from now on for more info, love your work. Thank you very much. All right. So I agree. I agree with you on that. I think that entire text message chain that we saw was a CYA operation. All right. I think that was intended to basically relieve that person of any finger pointing or anything else. So I think we're being played by those text messages and by the shooter. Here's another thing. When we start talking about these other possible shooters, like why would this guy take the blame? Like why would he take the blame? If he's the patsy and there was, the real shooter somewhere else, like somebody has to explain that to me. And again, if it's this sophisticated conspiracy, you would think that if he was meant to be a patsy, they would have found him in the woods next to the firearm and he had, unalived himself. That's what the logical conclusion would be for that, because if he's working for some agency, some government or some organization, whatever else we got going on, it seems like that would have been a really big loose end that they needed to tie it up. I don't think they would wait until he was captured. And this guy was, moving about very freely in society for at least a full day, something like that. I can't remember now. Everything's kind of blending together. So I agree with you. Could it have ricocheted off collarbone, neck? No. 30-06. I don't care what bullet weight we come up with. I don't care if it's 20 grain, whatever. Any rifle round is not going to ricochet off of a freaking piece of bone. It's not going to happen. All right. It may deform the bullet. And let's say, let's say this. Let's say a 30-06 hit my arm, right? So it hits my arm, hits a bone, or even hits my finger, hits a bone, right? It's going to shatter that bone. It's going to go right through that bone. And if we continued to follow the trajectory of that round, we would see that some sort of deflection took place eventually. But in the couple of inches from here to there, it's not just going to hit this and go ding. Like, that's not what bullets do, especially any sort of rifle round, or even like 9mm. 9mm is not going to bounce off your collarbone. And it's like, it's significantly less energy than something like a any sort of rifle round. I don't care if you're talking about 5.56. Anything short of, now, would a rimfire shot out of a pistol? Maybe we could get some sort of more immediate deflection. I don't think it would just like bounce here and go up there. It could hit and kind of skip off the round edge of the bone. We have a lightweight round moving at low velocity. We might see something like that with, 22 rimfire. People talk about how the type of round would cause much more damage, but since the theory is it hit the body armor, would that have slowed it down enough to not explode the neck? Yes. Well, and not just again, we're not talking about, and why it makes the most sense, we're not talking about it going here and then going and still traveling this way, right? What we're talking about is it hitting here and then going more of a linear motion upward into the neck and then more upward, right? So it's meeting a lot more mass and it has to travel through, well, the skull and everything else. So there's a lot more dense material that's going to absorb most of that energy. So that's why that would make sense. Actual shooter was very close, 10 yards, and the looks like exactly like an iPhone. It sounds totally nuts. It is nuts. It's nuts. It's nuts, bud. I'm not buying it. I've seen the video. I've seen the video. What they say is an iPhone can't, like, gun. Like, no, it wasn't. Like, there is no recoil. There's no muzzle blast. We wouldn't necessarily see a muzzle flash in daylight, but there would be some sort of clear ejection of material around the bullet. You're not going to see the bullet, but you would see propellant and things like that. Like, it's ridiculous. It's dumb. It's a great gag for clicks. Have you looked into the necklace at all? When he falls back from the reverb, his cross goes in the opposite direction. I believe that caused the shirt to jump up. When he falls back from the reverb, his cross goes up in the opposite direction. I think I kind of understand. I kind of explained this earlier. I think the rapid expansion of his neck, if that's his necklace that we're seeing, the rapid expansion of his neck, that is immediate, quick, violent acceleration, would pull that, possibly even break the chain itself and bring the necklace dependent up. Yeah. Why is it reported that the rifle was a Model 98, which Mauser made with wood stock, but we are shown a Model 618 Mauser with polymer stock? Wouldn't your grandfather be nostalgic and want wooden stock? I mean, you're assuming that you understand the mindset of his grandfather. As I looked it up, I believe it was actually a Model 68. When I actually looked at some of the, and I will tell you, the Mauser options are a little foreign to me. I understand a Mauser action, all those things like that, but it is hard to see exactly which model that we're talking about. And there's been many variations of each of those models over the years. That clearly looks like a gun probably from the 90s, maybe even 80s. It may be a little bit more modern than that. It doesn't look like it to me. So it gets a little hard to pinpoint. And the other thing we don't know is, like, if they changed out the stock. Is that an aftermarket stock? Doesn't look like it. Like I said, I think I looked up a 68, Model 68. It seemed to match all the different characteristics of what we were looking at. Oh, God. The mouse is doing weird things. All right. In a hypothetical, guy with your skills, is it realistic to carry out a hit and get away with it? Is it possible? Yeah, you could. it would look a lot different. It would seem a lot different than what's going on, but yeah, it could. Getting away is never a given in a situation like that, right? But you know, there's some things that you could do that would greatly enhance your chances of getting away. If he wasn't wearing body armor, do you have any other ideas? Also, can you talk more about the kind of discrete body armor that exists right now? Yeah, I mean, there's very expensive. Some of it is even literally custom made body armor. I don't know if they mold nipples into it or not. I mean, they could. Uh, to be fair, but I can tell you again, when you go to some of these trade shows where these higher end body armor companies that specialize in very expensive armor, you can get much thinner. You can use the latest and greatest, the state of the art technology, and you can get very effective thinner body armor. I don't know that any of it is capable of taking a 30-06 round direct. I don't think you're going to get the full protection of level 4, but or even 3+. I don't know. I actually had a body armor company contact me, and that's kind of what they specialize in. We're going to be talking a little bit more. I'd like some more information on exactly what they're capable of doing. Hit cross, broke chain flew, cross stayed in the shirt, maybe even the pennant that fragmented and punctured his jugular carotid, spitballing. I think this is something you could prove pretty easily if you had a ballistic gel model. And I believe that if a round penetrated the rear and actually went through the chain, we wouldn't see the violent acceleration that we see of it. The chain's going to break. Like that round is going to go right through it. It's going to cut it like hot knife through butter. Even fragments of it would cut that chain very easily, very quick. We're talking about, again, I don't think most people understand the velocities that we're talking about. It would cut that real quick. So I think more likely that we have a rapid expansion, a rapid acceleration to the point to where the chain does break. I think that's more plausible. Again, that's speculation, but where do we go from here? Given a lot of liberals admittedly want to unalive us and laugh about it and before we are buried. Look, I think that number one, if you're not armed, you should be. You need to carry every single day. I talk about this all the time. You need to be a prepared citizen. We as Americans should be self-sufficient. It's nice to be able to call the police, but you shouldn't have to, because they're not going to be there when you need help. You know, the old saying is when you need 911, when you have seconds left, you know, 911 or cops are minutes away. And that's true. So you need to be prepared. I carry every single day. Most of the time I'm carrying in my own house. And so you need to have the competency to do that, the training to do that. And you also need what's just important or even more important than firearms training is you need to get some medical training. I'm not talking about first aid to fix boo-boos. I'm talking about traumatic injury. You need to be able to, whether it's a TCCC course, tactical casualty care, TECC course, tactical emergency casualty care. Those are things that we teach, that we're certified to teach. I think that is the most important. So you need to be able to take care of yourself medically. You need to be able to take care of yourself, your own security, your family security. You need to train your family. You need to make sure that you're doing whatever you can to avoid indoctrination of your children, because it is happening. And, you know, we see it all the time. You cannot compete if your kids are in public school, and that along with the social media, with Hollywood, with whatever else, the messaging that we probably don't do enough to our kids, you cannot compete with the amount of information that they're getting and how effective their message is on a regular basis. So I have one child that is being homeschooled currently, and I have another one. He's still in middle school. Now we live in a smaller town in West Virginia, and I will tell you the middle school is pretty good. All right. Most of the teachers and things like that are conservative. There's still some things I disagree with, but we also spend a lot of time. I want to indoctrinate my kid, and you need to be like, that needs to be an imperative. You need to be talking to your kids about this stuff all the time. You need to be giving them a message and making them as smart as possible and understand liberty, the importance of the Constitution, the importance of the Second Amendment. Like, you need to be preaching to your kids as often as possible. Make sure that you guys, have your kids in church. That's something that we haven't done a good job of. We have a business that is very demanding, and we haven't been taking our kids to church nearly as much. And this is, I think, is a wake up call, as we should be. We need to get our own spiritual lives in order in my household. And I think those are all things that you need to do. And yeah, because you're not going to win. Even if your kids don't like hearing you preach, it has a more of a profound effect on them than you think. And at least it's a counter narrative. Possible reasoning behind him taking the blame, immediately take heat off his conspirators. I just think there were more people involved. Great breakdown, by the way. It's possible. It's possible. Candace Owen has some good info. She's on a mission. Definitely check it out. She has a theory that makes a little sense on him being a patsy. All right. Yeah. I typically, not everything Candace, I really like Candace Owens. Not everything that she says I agree with. But she's super intelligent. I really like, I would say I agree with her on 98% of stuff. In the video I emailed you, you see what I thought was blood instead of being his ear. In video, you also see muzzle flash from the window behind the right head side, along with a bullet that runs exact trajectory to Kirk from said window. Yeah, look, I've addressed the blood. That's not blood. That's his hair. If you're talking about the picture, look, like hundreds of people sent me that picture. It is his hairline as he turns right here. Again, there's other video from his right side that clearly shows no blood. That muzzle flash, there's two issues with it. Number one, I don't think it's a muzzle flash. I don't even think it's a reflection. It could be a reflection of a light, but the other thing it could be is an actual camera flash from inside of that room, especially if somebody's trying to take a picture and they have their auto flash on and that window is tinted, which it looks like. We would expect to see some sort of flash go off from the camera. That's more explanatory. The other problem with that being a muzzle flash is that the time it takes between we see the muzzle flash in the video and then Charlie's actually hit, it is a couple of frames. There's a time gap of a couple of frames. All right. It doesn't fall in line with what we would see if it was an actual firearm. It just doesn't. Jason TG sponsor says Jeff sucks. I agree. Those guys are going back and forth in the comments. In the videos, the same one. If the shooter was at an elevated position when the bullet hit the armor, wouldn't have ricocheted down. I covered that already. No, it was only 10 degrees. It wasn't this high difference in elevation that we talk about. I covered in the video between it being a 10 degree, which is about probably something like this, right? And if Charlie Kirk's plates were at all, basically sculptured back, there's usually some sort of contouring that's done to the plate, and we typically see an angle like this. So if it came in like this and hit there, it would go up. Especially if it was beveled on the edge, which is a more severe angle, it would definitely be directed in exactly what we saw with that. During Vietnam, non-domestic missions were sanctioned. I don't doubt it. You've done a ton of work on this. You don't have to share unless you want to, but have you surmised what happened? Basically, just asking your opinion. I am not sure. You know what? Let me get back to you on that. Ask me another night. Entry wound size, massive entry wound that size equal massive exit had to be deflected. Yeah, I typically agree with that. I think that's, even with temporary cavitation, I don't think his neck expanded enough to snap 24-inch necklace, not meaning to be gratuitous. The necklace is important. Sure, maybe. I don't know. I don't know that we have any good data points on what would happen if a necklace with a fairly large pendant was hanging on a neck that expanded at a very rapid acceleration, accelerating that thing up. Like, almost nothing explains to me why, if that is his necklace flying behind him, why it would do that. As a matter of fact, okay, I'm just thinking about this, right, as we're talking. So we have a necklace that flies behind him. I do think that it is plausible that, again, it accelerates extremely fast, so fast, in fact, that just the weight of the cross on there could, I mean, look, there's some pictures of close-ups of the chain. Depending on the material that we're talking about, it could be like, it might only take 30, 40, pounds of force to snap that thing. I don't think it would take a lot. I do find it funny, now that I'm thinking about it, that we see the chain break and it fly that way. I do think that it's possible that it was actually accelerating very fast. Just the weight of the pendant may have broken it. I don't know. Like, if it broke back here, how would this thing that's wrapped around his neck fly behind him? I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you on that. I mean, at the end of the day, Adrian, you're just as likely to be right as I am, because it's speculative. Email from Tactical video and pics of exit wound, negative pressure vacuum created behind bullets. Cause a shirt to flip up in front. No, sir. I showed that in the video. There is no negative pressure created behind bullets. Not that it's going to disturb a shirt like that. Not a thing. So no, nope. I showed a video. The very first video, I actually showed a 50 cal round, and it's at High Speed Ballistics. You guys can go see it. The channel's High Speed Ballistics. They're shooting a 50 cal. I know this is a theory or something that people, it's kind of a wives' tale or whatever you want to call it, a thing that's always been going around, that, hey, you know what, you don't even have to get hit by a 50 cal and it'll rip your arm off, right? So they tested it. They actually first shoot near a dummy, a ballistic dummy's arm. It doesn't even move. It's less than an inch. And then they actually shoot that 50 cal round literally less than an inch above a pile of flour. And the negative pressure, the whatever you want to call it, all right, the wake of that bullet does not even make the flour. And I mean, like baking flour. That's what we're talking about. All right. It doesn't even make that powder move at all. So that idea is debunked. Debunked. Why doesn't a friend family just come forward about autopsy, exit wound, body armor, and clear all this up? Wouldn't the plate have a blemish? Well, Nick, I don't know that the family feels like they have. They just lost somebody, right? I mean, would you? Maybe you would. I don't know. I don't feel like they. And on top of that, by the way, there may be some elements of the, even if they were going to release that information, we can't expect them to release it a week after it happened. Like, that's crazy. That's bonkers. We're not being reasonable, and we're being entitled. Like, they still have an active investigation, and there may be elements inside, there may be things that inside that autopsy report that are relevant to the investigation. And so if there is somebody, if they're trying to, if they're doing their due diligence and trying to investigate to make sure that there isn't more people involved, or this is like some Antifa thing or whatever, right? Like, they're not going to release that information now, and they may never. When I looked at normal frame clip when he was hit, to me, it didn't look like he was wearing any armor. The shirt movement seemed from the shock wave on the body, from the hit, direct hit, no exit. Yeah, well, I mean, if it's low profile armor that's designed to be concealed, you're not going to see a lot. Well, and here's the difference. Here's one thing that I've pointed out, and I think is very relevant, is the fact that there are times that we definitely see the outline of his cross and even see his nipple. But when he's actually hit, we don't see that. There, like, in the footage leading up to that, we don't see like the outline of his necklace or any of those things. And it could just be because, again, we have to understand this footage is being filmed on a cell phone from like 30 feet away. And they either cropped in a lot while they were filming it, or as it's being passed around, everybody's zooming in, and it's just destroying the quality and the fidelity of a lot of that footage. So there could be good explanations around both of those. Gary, your channel and you in particular seem to be the most logical and honest channel on YouTube with the knowledge and ballistics experience to back it up. Thank you, Chris. Like whether we're talking about doing business or doing YouTube content, I think, man, I just want to do things with the most honesty and integrity that I possibly can. I don't know how else to do it. I think it would, be a bad example to my kids if I did it any other way. I believe my gut is that it's both Tyler and Lance, but add in a large group of people in a certain community that knew. This is a mess. Rest in peace, Charlie. I think that is very possible. With all, I think it's almost impossible that the other guy that's transitioning to become a guy dressed up as a girl is likely to have not been in on this. And then I think it's just as likely that, this was something that a larger group was involved with, or at least had knowledge of beforehand, and they should be held responsible. The close up POV shows CK's head expanding immediately. What about an expanding round, like arms gatekeeper redirected into the head via the neck? I mean, I think any large caliber round is going to generate enough of a hydrostatic shock wave that I don't think we need to come up with like some super crazy, terminal ballistic technology, that would create that. I think we're going to see that no matter what, even if it's just standard ball 30 caliber round. What do you make of the sensationalism of conspiracy theories? Is it us trying to cope with what happened? People look for clicks, mixture of both, something else. I covered that in my last video. That was literally the reason I made the last video. Yeah, I think it's a mix of both. I think that number one, none of us, especially those on the right, we don't want to believe a government narrative. So we have a bias toward anything that tell us, and rightfully so. They don't deserve our trust. They've lied to us about 1 billion times from the beginning of history, as far as I can tell. So there's that. So we immediately are opposed to any narrative that they come out with. So we have a proclivity to look for an alternative theory, and rightfully so. And then there are people that just don't have any sort of mental discipline and are just going to indulge their completely indulge their imagination, and they just go a little nuts with that, and don't sit down and look at things logically. They look at whether they do it consciously or not. It's fun, it's exciting. We're now in the middle of a spy novel. We're now in the middle of some sci-fi thing. We now have James Bond gadgets that are killing people. Like that draws in a lot of people. And then you have, I think, very real disinformation operatives out there that are especially if any government was involved with this. I think we would immediately see, and I think even when they're not, they still capitalize on these things to put out a lot of bad information because it provides them cover for future events they may or may not be planning. You got to think about this, folks, whether it's the U.S. government or anything else. All of these intelligence operations and information operations, they're not thinking about today. They're thinking about, long term. Like they're planning years ahead. And they're setting conditions that give them more control over what's going on with narratives and how information is manipulated, and all of those things. Like our government, our politicians are dumb. There are some people in governments, and all governments, that are unbelievably intelligent. These are geniuses that know how to manipulate people at a level that none of us, I think, can really appreciate. So there are people out there, there are those entities. And then there's just the freaking grifter class that are out there that are coming up with the craziest theories and people love it, and they send them money, and they get views and clicks. The crazier the theory, the better. And then what they do is they come up with this great theory, and then they spend all time trying to prove that theory. That shouldn't be how we conduct an investigation, or it's not science or anything else. It's not like, oh, I want this theory to be true, so now I'm going to go around and I'm going to try to find confirmation of it. That's like that's the opposite of doing any sort of intellectual undertaking or trying to conduct an investigation with any integrity, right? We want to look at the evidence and then see what evidence we have and then come to conclusions based on that. That's not what they're doing. And they are really good at it. Folks, there are some folks out there that really know how to, they're con artists, right? They're milking people for views. And then there's just people out there that are putting out content with no ill intent, but again, they want to believe the crazy. All right. Wouldn't you agree pitting left versus right is just a distraction from the country's real issue? Corrupt politicians, national debt, low birth rates, endless wars. No. I agree that all of those are serious problems. I think that okay, all right, let's say we got a boat. We got a boat that has engine trouble. We got a boat that the electrical systems work, has issues. I don't know why I went with a boat, but I did. We got a boat that needs painting. We have all these problems on this boat. And suddenly we have now somebody has shot a projectile into the boat, and we are now sinking. And like, hey, you know what? You shouldn't have shot this projectile into this boat because now we're sinking. And then it's like, oh, well, what about, and that's what it is whataboutism. Like, don't you think we should worry about the engine? Don't you think we should worry about the paint, the electrical, all these other problems that we legitimately have with this boat that's now sinking? Like, no, we should address those individually, and we can do two things at once, right? The fact is that we have the left that has strategically, intentionally turned every person on the right into demons. We have demonized, and they have demonized us. They have called us every name in the book. No, like all those things can be true too. But the left is a real problem, and the left is responsible for Charlie Kirk's death. The left is responsible for the two attempted assassinations on Donald Trump. And I think the left is going to be responsible for a lot more problems unless they come out and they retract and change their ways. They're not, though. They're doubling down. They're saying, hey, yeah, he shouldn't have been killed. But by the way, he was a racist. He was a homophobe. He was a sexist. He was everything, right? But, he should be able to live and not get killed and do that. It's not how it works, man. I apologize just joined when you were saying I like Candace Owens, agree with 90. What are your thoughts on her essentially blaming the Jews? All right. Since you asked, I'll tell you. I am not into this freaking anti-Semitic nonsense. I haven't looked totally at it. Now, I will also say that we can point out, I do want to separate anti-Semitism from being critical of the Israeli government. Those are two very different things, and I do think that a lot of people lump those things into them. There's the side of, especially on the right, that if you criticize Israel for anything, they start calling you anti-Semitic. The left used to do it too. Now they've just turned into like these Jew-hating people. So it's hard. All of that stuff starts getting so conflated that it's really hard to start separating. What I don't think, or what I get a little tired of hearing, is that Jews are responsible for all the bad stuff in the world. It's just nonsense. Like, they don't even have that much power. Don't get me wrong. I understand they got power, influence, and we got AIPAC, and like there's some problems, and there's some legitimate criticism in there, but they're not responsible for everything and every problem. Like, some of this just seems a little ridiculous. That's my take. I mean, is it like, I would have to say, and I've said this before, whether it was Israel, whether it was the US government, whether it was some other sophisticated organization, there are easier ways that are less risk to those organizations to take out Charlie Kirk, to guarantee that they wouldn't be tied to that, than doing something like this. I do think my take on this right now is that there's a 90+% chance that what we see is what we get. We have someone that is radicalized on the left, that shot Charlie Kirk and, that's what I think this, like, even some of the stuff with Jeffrey Epstein, like the idea that like maybe Israel was involved in the whole Epstein thing, but the idea that the CIA wasn't involved as well, you got to be a little silly to think that. If that was an intel operation, and I do think it was, I think Israel all too often ends up being the patsy, or at least is taking most of the blame on things that they may or may not be involved with. But you better believe that if that was going on and we had all of these high-ranking officials, you better believe that our own intelligence agencies knew about it too. Like, it's just not even possible. Maybe not a muzzle flash, but a supersonic round. I don't know what you mean. Maybe a subsonic round? I don't know what you're referencing, Brent. Sorry, I lost it. With where Charlie was hit, I would expect to see a lot of blood spill on the ground as he was being carried to the SUV, but not a drop. Very strange. I don't know that we see that. And look, Charlie was hit and most likely severed the carotid artery and the jugular vein. He bled a lot. He bled a lot. And then on top of that, not only did he bleed a lot just in what we saw, he was on the ground. And let me tell you something. They were not going to be able to stop that bleeding. I don't care if you packed that wound. I don't care what you did. There was no way to stop that bleeding with any sort of level of effectiveness. So he was bleeding a lot behind that counter, behind that table, out of sight. And then the other problem is I do think that his entire nervous system was shut down. I think so. At that point, at some point, his heart's going to stop beating, and I think his heart stopped beating probably not long after he was on the ground. So now we're no longer pumping blood. So there's actually very easy and good explanations about that. And on top of that, we don't see, like, maybe somebody had some sort of bandage over him that was putting in pressure that would, whatever blood was left to leak out was being prevented to. And again, there's not good video. I don't even know how we can come to that conclusion based on the information that we see, but I think most of his blood was evacuated behind that table. And then there was definitely a point where I think his heart stopped beating. So we're no longer pumping blood. He had a Kevlar vest verified today, maybe had on the pennant sandwich under the vest, and next swell, snap the chain, pull the pennant. Will Banks, Home Improvement. If that was verified, send that to me. Look, guys, of course, I mean, I'd be a liar if I didn't say it. I would love to be eventually proven wrong, right? But I'm okay if I'm not. Because again, that's where things get weirder. Editing Apprentice, thanks for taking the time to share your opinions and experience. Would the bullet going through the shirt hitting armor cause an expansion of air inside the shirt between the vest and inside the shirt and cause that movement? Yeah, it could. I don't think it was like this expansion of air. I think what it looks like to me is that it hit a vest and then the vest took most of the energy. Obviously, we have a deflection upward, but that vest, like the other thing that, let me get rid of this so you guys see what I'm talking about. The other thing that you guys understand is when you take a round to the chest, even with body armor, like it's compressing rapidly, violently, your entire rib cage, all of your bone structures. And yeah, we're going to see exactly what we saw, where it's going to bounce essentially your bones, your tissue, the cartilage, all this stuff, all of your body stuff, right, is going to bounce that armor back out at some point. I mean, it is not uncommon to obviously have multiple fractures in the chest, ribs, sternum, all those things when you do get even hit with body armor with plates on, much less soft armor. I mean, soft, like you can get hit with even some more higher caliber pistol rounds that have a lot of energy into a bulletproof vest that, yeah, it stops the bullet, but it does enough damage to kill you still. So, I mean, we need to understand the physics involved with some of the physiology that we're dealing with as well. Do you think he aimed at the head and hit lower, aimed at the chest? I have no idea, buddy. He could have been, I don't know what that guy's fundamentals of marksmanship are, how good, how well he can break a trigger. I have no clue. I don't know if he yanked the shot. I don't know if that's why he hit high, if he was aiming at the top of his head, if, I just don't have, I don't have a good answer for you. That's no way for us to know. Any possibility the guy with arms crossed use another weapon like a pellet? No, the whole thing's ridiculous. Aiden, sorry. It's dumb. Don't guys, listen to me. Everybody, guys, girls, you got to guard your mind a little bit and not be, you just got to be skeptical and don't believe anything without evidence. There's no evidence of that. Don't believe everything you see, especially in the world of AI. Possible for an entry and exit wound to be the same or relatively close. No, I don't think there's any situation where we'd see an entry and exit wound near the same spot. Bullets don't come in, bounce off, turn around 180 degrees, and go out the same hole. It just doesn't happen. Anyway, that wound would have come from the mic. No, that wasn't a mic that he was wearing. That was a magnet that holds the mic on. I literally have that exact same magnet. It's a road magnet. It's right over there. No, what we see is kind of a weird, it's a weird coincidence that, again, this magnet that holds whatever he had underneath there ends up flying off, and kind of those things pass each other. The magnet kind of gets, I don't know where the magnet went. I have a good for you answer there, but what I can tell you for sure, I bet my life on it, that the magnet doesn't become the wound. That we can kind of cross off. Have you heard about Tyler supposedly saying he couldn't say much for the fear of them coming after his family? I've got a screenshot statement. I don't know who them he's referencing. I mean, he could be literally just referencing the authorities. So I'm not sure on that. But I mean, I would definitely like to see that. It's interesting. I think I might have seen something along those lines. Do you find it odd that picking the rifle was not in the box? No, that was several hours after they got there. They had already processed the scene. That picture was taken in the dark. Of course, they're going to put it in a box or something like that. It's evidence. Where do you see us in a year after this continues? I have no idea, man. I don't know. I've said this. I was saying this a year ago, and really even before the Trump assassination. It's really... Again, even before the Trump really during Trump's first term, we were seeing such a divide in this country and such a demonization of the right from the left, and them getting crazier and crazier and crazier, that what I was saying during the whole Russian collusion hoax and all the stuff they were pushing is, we are getting to a point where we have the ideology of the left and the ideology of the right, which the ideology of the right is just basically traditional values, right? We believe in the Constitution. We believe all the things we believe that, the First Amendment protects speech, but it also protects freedom of religion. The anti-Christian and the anti-white racism and hatred that we have seen over the last couple of years. I am concerned for my boys growing up as a white Christian males in a society where they're told that they are, just by their nature, because they were born with, being white, and the fact that they're Christian, that they're hated, they should shut up, they should not participate in society. That's the message. And what I've been saying, going back several years now, is that, the left and the right, we've gotten to a point to where we really can't even, we can't agree on anything. And I don't know how we fix that. And I don't know that we do. And ultimately, it's going to be completely up to the left what happens. They are going to have to dramatically change the way they act, the way their rhetoric, before that we as a nation come together. They got to stop demonizing the right. They got to stop demonizing and pushing hatred toward white people. Like, it's got to stop. Please watch a video from 3 rows in front again. There are a few different links to the video. Watch it until it cuts away. You'll see what appears to be blood start from the ear area. I've seen all the videos. I'm just telling you, I've seen it. I don't see any blood. I wish I did. A pro would get him in the middle of the night, no witnesses. Yeah, and, you know, they could even, like, look, folks, the idea that certain sophisticated organizations can, you know, hack into a car, make it wreck. I think those things, look, I know those are possible. And I think those types of things have taken place in the past for sure. I interacted with you on X yesterday on the subject. I appreciate your input. Next piece. My initial thought was wearing armor, round spalled, sending shrapnel through the neck. Need answers on the armor. I agree. Intent was either a center mass shot or an attempt to the headshot? Question mark. There is no way the neck was the target, right? I feel like that most tragic thing wasn't the target and the devastation. I don't know if it's the most tragic thing. Yeah, I don't think his neck was the intended target. I think he was either aiming for the head or the chest, and there's no way to know. I appreciate your knowledge and expertise. It has offered a lot of clarity. What are your thoughts on the text messages between the shooter and partner? I said that earlier. I think those are contrived. I think those were contrived ahead of time, regardless of when they were sent. So they could. I think it is implausible that the roommate didn't know what was going on. So wouldn't the Utah Police Department, everybody be involved if the FBI is hiding something from us? And those are some badass guns you got. Thank you. Yeah, and this is one of the things that I kind of talked a little bit about, some of the conspiracy theories that were going around with Butler. Like, are you telling me that the entire Secret Service is involved, and then the Butler PD and the Sheriff's Department? Like, there was like 2 or 3 different local agencies and people from those agencies. Like, when you start getting to some of these things, you gotta start adding a lot of different layers. I do think that, like, if we go out there and we kind of dip our toe in like some possible conspiracies, if we want to kind of play around with that, the argument could be that the FBI knew what was going on and they have incriminating evidence and they're holding on to it. And no, I don't think that the local Utah Sheriff's Department or Police Department would necessarily have access to that. So I think if we were seeing some sort of conspiracy from the federal law enforcement, there are those possibilities. I don't think it's likely, but it is possible. Thoughts on the window behind it looks like I already talked about it. It's not a muzzle flash. And if it was, well, it's not, but I mean, it doesn't even, the timing's wrong. Do you consider all these anomalies to be consistent? Blowback and shirt, potential broken chain, flying magnet, everything flying all over the place, and he's down and left. Yeah, I mean, I've kind of covered that. Super sticker, thank you. We have to come together. I know that's a far-fetched idea. The country cannot continue. I agree. We cannot continue like this, but I don't know what the answer is going to be. I don't know. It's going to be, the onus is on the left. They have to completely reform. Please watch that video again. I've seen all the videos too, and it took me probably 10 different times to notice the blood from right ear. All right. I will commit to doing that for you. Thank you. Adrian Lopez, I would definitely look into how many drones were spotted as well. I wouldn't be surprised to know that there are some AI drones out there that shot. Adrian, come on, man. Look, I don't doubt that there are some drones. Well, I know I mean, you know, we have lots of different like Predator drones and everything else. And I look, there is definitely classified drones, small classified drones that could probably deliver some sort of lethal projectile. There's no doubt about that. They're not going to waste that and expose that on Charlie Kirk when there's so many easier and better options. Like, again, we gotta rein it in just a little bit. All right, folks, I'm gonna spend the next 10 minutes real quick going through the live chats. I'm gonna scroll all the way down to catch up. And of course, my Mouse is freezing up again here. Scroll all the way down, and we're going to go through the last few minutes of live chats. Did you see they are paving over the crime? Did you see they are paving over the crime scene? I did not see that. That's problematic. People today in the earlier chat claimed Megyn Kelly said it was confirmed he did it. I found nothing searching to the back. The scan show did not find it either. She definitely confirmed. It's not today. It's not from today. I think that's the problem. It's from when she was on the Charlie Kirk show, or hosting the Charlie Kirk show in his stead. So it's not from today. That's the problem. She definitely talks about him wearing body armor. I don't see anything that claims. I haven't heard what's been relayed to me that she actually talks about it bouncing off the chest. But I literally got to listen to it for like 10 minutes, and I was playing it at 2x speed. I was trying to find that. I'll look for that. Has the bullet been found? I don't know, and we haven't been told. The body language guy likes your channel. Well, thank you. Somebody sent it to me. That was cool to see that and I've never watched the body language channel. But it was cool that he said some kind words, and, thank you. Thank you, body language channel guy. I listened to his account of CK Murder. He was a weird energy. He goes into first person in a way like a trauma victim. You're talking about the body language guy. Yeah, I literally just watched a couple clips. I wanted to see what he was saying, obviously, about my analysis, right? Anyone else remember in the movie Inferno where there was a division who creates illusions? They always broadcast the type of information in movies. Can't trust anything they do or say. Always an agenda. Yeah, again, like I said, we've gotten to a point where the right and left, like, our differences are irreconcilable. We can no longer coexist. I mean, that's part of the problem. Like, now we're seeing people either attempted to be killed on our side or actually killed on our side. And then the problem is, like, there's feigned there's feigned apologies. It's such like a tepid, like, yeah, that's wrong, but he was, he kind of deserved it. I mean, that's the attitude, and that disgusts me. And you make me hate you more. You do. You make me hate you more when you say shit like that. Because what I can tell you is that I would genuinely find it reprehensible if somebody on the right killed somebody on the left, and we found out that they did it. And I don't doubt, maybe that has been done. I don't know. But again, what we don't see is a bunch of politicians on the right, or large voices on the right, saying that the left is Hitler, that people are Hitler, that they're sexist, they're racist, misogynist, all the things. There's nowhere there is. I'm so sick of the false equivalency of that discussion. I'm just so sick of it. Like, there's no equivalency between the two. The rhetoric on the left is completely different than that on the right. Also, Charlie was at the back of the tent. The shooter was elevated and probably couldn't see Charlie. I literally showed that to be false. Matter of fact, let's just I'm going to show it to you. I got the picture right here. Let's just show it. We know that's false. All right. Let me find this image file here. And again, you can go check out my channel, the latest video. I zoom in on it, which I'm not going to be able to do here. Actually, let me find that picture. But there is a picture from that exact spot, and trust me, you can see everything clearly. It's actually more clear than I expected it. All right, so that's it. I'll add this to stage. Folks, look at this. So, and in this is somebody standing up. If they were down in the prone, the height from Charlie's, and you can see all the way to the back of that, you can definitely see enough of what's going on there. But you'd be able to see if that person taking that picture was down the prone, that would increase the gap between the top of the tent. So again, these are a lot of this is bad information. So you're coming to conclusions like, oh, there's no way he could see them, so therefore there has to be a different shooter. Well, no, your first assumption is incorrect. So your second assumption is also incorrect. So we got to, that's what I'm trying to do a little bit, is like stop some of this. Have you seen the footage of the mushroom bullet exiting his neck? No, I haven't. I am skeptical that such a thing exists. Nothing about the rifle makes sense to me. I don't know what you mean exactly. If you're talking about the setup of the rifle, folks, again, I said earlier, like I get people that come to our long range courses that claim they have been shooting for a long time, that they have a rifle that is set up more incorrect than that. And I'm like, I don't even know how you've been shooting this thing. Like, have you been? How long have you been using? So I've been using that rifle for a long time. Like, you shoot it like that? Like, yeah, I shoot it like that. Like, nothing on that side of the house surprises me. What do you think? What do you think knows the Valhalla references? What do you think knows the Valhalla? What do I think about the Valhalla references? I mean, it's a common reference, like, oh, until Valhalla. I don't know. I don't have an opinion on that. Have you heard about the left plans for November 5th? I haven't. I haven't been on media today at all. Where are the university cameras? Where are the university cameras on the shooting? All we have is cell phone video. You would think they had picked something up other than him leaving. Oh, I think they have footage of him. I don't necessarily think that they like they shared just enough. Maybe there's other information. Maybe he met up with somebody and that's on footage. Maybe there's other things that are relevant. And again, I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate a little bit here, but like I agree that I want that information, but I also agree that the FBI is in a legitimate, investigation. And if they're doing good police work, they probably shouldn't share everything with us. What I do think, like, let's put this in perspective, folks. Like, within a day or two, we did get a lot of information from this FBI. More, and I can tell you, I was paying close attention to everything that was going on with the Trump assassination. Like, we got nothing from the Biden administration. They were in deny mode. They were in cover their asses mode. They were in whatever mode. Well, we have gotten 1,000 times more information from this FBI, and there is a lot to criticize when it comes to the Cash Patel. And I've talked about that. Look, I am disappointed. I expected a lot from Patel and Dan Bongino. They are not meeting my expectations. I wish they would do better. I wish they would do better in a lot of areas. But I mean, just objectively speaking, we've gotten 10 times more information on this instance than we did what happened on July 13th in Butler. The footage of the drone was actually a bird. Folks, I can't tell you how much when especially when they started dumping the footage of all the police body cams during the Butler situation. Once that footage got dumped, we got police body cams. They got some additional security camera footage. And suddenly there were all these crazy anomalies that were showing up, and people were saying they were UFOs. They were flying projectiles. Just a host. And come to find out, after it was all said and done, we figured out either those were birds. They were either birds or they were insects. Those caused a lot of issues and a lot of confusion and a lot of more conspiracies and a lot more clicks and a lot more likes and a lot more Patreons, subscriptions because of what was going on with that. The aliens were involved with Trump's attempted assassination as well. Thank you, Sean. A video show him carried to SV, no shirt, no undershirt, likely no armor. The $1 million question is, why didn't the 30 cal exit? I agree that they got the shooter and likely the rifle. Agree, he assembled the rifle on the roof and left the screwdriver. All right, so let's talk about. All right, so we got pictures of him being carried to the car that don't show any body armor. We would not see body armor in that picture, even if he did have body armor. There were medics there. The first thing they're going to do is they're going to assess a casualty and make sure that there's no other wounds. All right. They're going to stop bleeding. All right. The acronym's MARCH. We're covering massive bleeding, airway, respiration, circulation, and heat exhaustion. Right. That's the order of what they're treating. And the first thing they're going to do is, if he had body armor, while we can't see them, they're ripping that body armor off. That's the first thing that's going to come off. That's the first thing that we teach when we're teaching traumatic injury response or TCCC, right? Tactical casualty care. So that doesn't that doesn't mean anything to me. That is not confirming or denying anything to me. I would, if matter of fact, if we still saw body armor on there, I'd be on here criticizing. I'd be like, some effing idiot of a medic that they got. And I'm sure he's got some, probably some former 18 Deltas, which is SF medic, or some other, SOCOM corpsman. Like, there's some really highly experienced folks. I hope he had, but even like a standard EMS guy, or, if it was a paramedic or whatever he had on staff, anybody worth their salt, the first thing you're going to do is remove that body armor to assess his wounds. Thank you. Thank you. Oh God. I'm about to buy a new mouse. It keeps bugging out on me. Bless you and your patience. People, too many movies, TV, trust what Gary's saying. They're not two shooters. Rest in peace, Charlie. They demolished, cleared, and rebuilt the crime scene. They even had a wide open maintenance door right where Charlie was sitting. Man, oh man. I don't know what to say to that. If that's true, I just feel like sometimes we're being punked. So, if that's true, that's a super bad move on their part. I listened to the beginning of this live and you said the photos of the rifle was leaked from the ATF. Were you talking about the photo of it in the box? Yes. Photo of it in the box. All right. I'm going to do 5 questions, 5 comments or whatever else in the normal chat and the live chat. And then we're going to have to call it a night, guys. I appreciate so much. And hopefully this was informative for you guys. Let's grab this one. William 8299. Rick B HCC showed a photo of an Egyptian head stamp from a 2023 post when talking about the engravings. Dude has been compromised. Okay. I'm sure that was a kind of a chat going on inside there somewhere that I am not privy to. Let me go to new comments down here. White shirt guy is Frank and talk for 2 hours last night video. He explains the movements. Awesome. Yeah, like the whole idea that his head of security, which is behind him, and he's the guy that kind of makes that really aggressive hand movement. Just so happens, like I don't buy that. Like, I don't think he was involved. And by the way, like, why do you need hand gestures? Or, hey man, we're gonna do this thing where it's like, hey, as soon as I do this, you're free to shoot him. Like, what would be the point of that? If you really have a sniper on the roof, like, all right, now's the time. I don't even know why that even makes sense. What about the use of gun drones? It's specialized turrets and AI targeting to achieve high precision shooting that can explain the angle of entry. No, it can't explain the angle of entry. Today in the video I just released, I calculated the angle of entry, and the angle of entry, well, if he was shot from where he was shot, the angle of entry would be 10 degrees. All right. And anything more severe than that doesn't make sense. Look, drones weren't involved, guys. Just stop. This is exhausting with some of this stuff. Could the official story be true? If not, what are the biggest holes? I think that right now, given the information that we have, the official story seems to be corroborated by all the evidence. That's what we have right now. So the biggest holes in the story, again, there are some holes in the story. Like, the holes in the story that I see are like these text messages that don't make a lot of sense to me. I am very skeptical that there's only one person involved. There's more. I have to sit down and think about it. There's a bunch of, right now, it's not so much even holes in the story necessarily. There are things that we see in the video and other things like that that do seem suspicious. I think there's some things that need explaining, right? And I do want, and one of the most weirdest things to me, body armor, things got really weird. All right. And I agree. We definitely can't trust the FBI. All right. Please, baby Jesus, in the stream. All right. There's, yeah. All right. All right, folks. We are going to end it there. Listen, I hope that was helpful. I hope that was, please, baby Jesus, in the stream. That's funny. I hope it was helpful. I hope it was informative. Hopefully it answers some of you guys' questions. Like, let's find the truth, but let's be reasonable about this and not just give in to every crazy thing that's been put out there. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate your support. Join us. We're definitely going to be going live. As a matter of fact, we're going live on Tuesday. We'll go live on Wednesday for sure. We may go live in between there. I don't know. Here's what I want you guys to do. Make sure you go follow us on Twitter. Please go follow me on Twitter. That's a great place to communicate. I need more followers on Twitter. I would appreciate it anyhow. And then on top of that, make sure you like, subscribe on YouTube. But what I want you guys to do, make sure that you hit that bell icon. Folks, we are unbelievably censored on YouTube. And if you don't hit the bell icon and hit all, you will not see most of our content. We hear it all the time. So make sure you select all. That way when we do put out new content, you're notified. If you don't want to watch it, click off to something else. That's fine. But at least you're notified. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, stay armed, stay ready. We'll talk to you.